minutes of the board exist to show that no such discussion took place. But with respect to this one, this discussion actually took place. And the contrary is true. And to prove that the contrary is true, just allow me just once. This is the only recording I'm going to play, which proves that the statement was false from Dr. Dlamini. Okay. Am I now connected?
Looks like it. Yeah.
Okay.
Are you the DJ, Mr.
Task team task. I thought that they were packaging and then going to negotiate. The time, as of what date? Do we know when that would come into effect if everything is accepted?
It will be signed by the chairperson of the board that it will conclude.
Okay. That's the question where it's going to start.
I think it was missing in the report then. Thank you. So Chair, then my two questions are, is there any discussion about what relocation costs include and don't include? And also, what is the time, as of what date? Do we know when that should come into effect if everything is accepted?
Okay. This is a question by a board member asking what the relocation includes and what it doesn't include. Because I'm now gonna be playing it. What Dr. Dlamini said is that I had told the board, if you listen to that recording of hers, she says I had told the board that Mr. Vilakazi's belongings were already in Pietermaritzburg, and therefore there was no need for relocation costs. But Mr. Vilakazi needs money. Because he needs money, that money that he needs is only for rental. Therefore, we will pay him that and pretend that it is his relocation. She says she objected, but she was outvoted. What this tape is going to tell you is that there is no such, and in fact she never said anything in that discussion. Well,
DJ?
Yes.
Then the doctor says, in August 2023, there was a recommendation from the CEO for a delegation to approve procurement up to 1 million without going to the board. She then says she asked whether the CEO will report to the board on this procurement that the CEO was asking delegation for. Now, this is a difficulty that we have. This is a complete fabrication. We have recordings of board meetings. We have minutes of board meetings. There was never such a discussion in August 2023 where the CEO sought a delegation of 1 million. In fact, the fact is that organization have got delegations that date as far back as 2015. In terms of those delegations, the CEO has got up to 20 million delegation with respect to certain matters. So there was no need to go to the board in 2023 because there are delegations that provides for these things. As to why Dr. Dlamini decided to go and fabricate this story, I suppose it was only meant to serve a narrative. Then the doctor goes further to say there are divisions in the board as a consequence of the manner in which it is appointed. She mentioned that there are those that are brought by the minister, those brought by Copter, Premier, and His Majesty. She says these divisions were obvious as from July 2023. She says those brought by His Majesty were not respected or treated as if they have a say because His Majesty doesn't have any power or authority. I think the principal issue that the doctor was talking to is there is a practical problem about how Ingonyama Trust Board is appointed. That part is true. It requires consultation of specific parties. And it does seem that those parties who must be consulted, they do take a view that they must now raise names for people that must represent them. That's not the requirement of the law. They don't have to have representatives in the board. They must just be consulted on the names of persons that must be appointed. They don't have to bring their own people, but they've interpreted that consultation to mean they must bring their own people. Now, the difficulty arises if in bringing their own people into the board, they then micromanage them in a manner that seeks to micromanage the board. Because if you send representatives, then you give them a mandate that doesn't matter what is the nature of the conversation in the board discussion. They must achieve that, and no matter what. Then what you're doing is that you're creating a problem for that board. You are taking away the independence of those members. You are depriving them from bringing independent thought in the discussions because you're trying to micromanage them. And this indeed has happened in this board. Mr. Misi has micromanaged people that have been sent by His Majesty. So, which is why we sit in a position where out of those people, we now have only one of them, which is Dr. Dlamini. Two have gone. Kosumzimela was dismissed. Kosutembe resigned. He resigned after he was suspended, purportedly suspended in December, by the person that recommended him to the board. And why does that happen? It happens because Dr. Dlamini, using the recordings of the board meetings, she would go back to her handlers and say to her handlers, Mr. Mnisi and Rejoice, these people are selling me out in that board meeting. This is the evidence that they don't advance your positions. So the two Amakosi then became the people that have sent them, they lost respect in them on the basis that they are not pushing the line. Dr. Dlamini is the only one who pushes the line, which is the reason why she remains alone now out of the three that were brought by His Majesty. So the way in which the board is appointed by itself is not a problem, but it depends on the maturity of the people that are brought in and the maturity of those that have recommended them. Because if they are going to hold them on a tight leash, then indeed there's going to be a problem, because discussions are not always going to go their way. And that will then be defined as divisions. Out of the full complement of the board, we have never sensed that the rest of them, except those sent by Mr. Mnisi, that they are divisions. The so-called divisions are a function of internal board debates, conclusions being reached, which others would have otherwise needed a different conclusion to be reached, and then they say that divisions. So that is what was presented. Then she then brought an issue about the appointment of the Chief Financial Officer. She makes reference to her objections to the salary package of the Chief Financial Officer, which she read out in that gathering. She says she raised objections because it was not supposed to be at a particular rate, and she then brings up an issue of relocation costs of the financial officer. She says the board took a decision during the course of the appointment of the CFO that instead of paying him relocation costs, it will actually pay for his rental. But because the policy of the organization does not allow for the payment of rental, the board decided that it will pretend that it is relocation, but it is actually rental. Then she says she argued against that and told the board, Uguti Sizosha, when you do that. She tried to play a clip, but that clip did not expose that. Then she then said, if the clip had continued, there would have been her voice saying that the CFO must not be paid 30,000 for rent because the board izosha. That statement was actually false. There are a number of other false statements above that I made reference to. The difficulty with them is that they are complete fabrications. They relate to conversations that never took place. As a consequence, I can't even bring out counter evidence because they just did not take place. Except that the only counter evidence that exists is that voice recordings of meetings can be played to show that no such discussion ever took place. Minutes of the board exist to show that no such discussion took place. But with respect to this one, this discussion actually took place. And the contrary is true. And to prove that the contrary is true, just allow me just once. This is the only recording I'm going to play, which proves that the statement was false from Dr. Dlamini. Okay. Am I now connected?
Looks like it. Yeah, you are.
Okay.
Are you the DJ, Mr.
They will